What's up, everyone, and welcome back to school. But don't worry, everything is cool. I'm your host, Jalissa, and of course, I am here with the boys, Steve and Brandon. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up?
How y'all doing today?
I'm doing really good. Happy Halloween, everybody. When this episode comes out, I think Halloween is, like a few days away?
Like
I don't know.
4
When
days
does
away.
this episode come out?
On Come on, bro. This is your show. You don't know when it comes out? That's crazy.
No, I mean like the date.
I was about to say you're in character. It's because he only knows about Friday.
Yeah, that's because that's when I come out. Yeah.
Your birthday just passed. How was that?
Yeah.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good. Got a tattoo.
Nice.
How old did you turn?
I don't know. In canon, how old am I supposed to be?
You're a teenage.
I'm 13 actually.
Wow, you're massive for 13, bro.
Yeah.
And they let you get a tattoo?
Yeah.
What did you get?
What would Jason get?
A knife.
I got a knife.
You got a knife? That's cool. That's really cool. When you take off the mask, are you disfigured on
Yeah, I'm hideous.
You're hideous?
I'm hideous.
Really? Give the people a peek.
No. I'm a monster. I can't.
Are you gonna go crazy if you take it off?
Yeah.
Come on, bro. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm sorry. I didn't even introduce myself. Do you want to guess who I am? Do you know what they call me?
You're some kind of.
I'm some kind of joking kind of guy.
Some kind of comedian. Some kind of jester. Some kind of.
When Julie, when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker?
Where's your makeup?
It's hot today. It's like in the 90s today in Los Angeles.
It actually is, yeah.
That's why I don't know if you guys can see, I'm wearing shorts too.
Yeah, you can see your shorts.
You can see him on camera? Actually?
Yeah, you can see his shorts.
That's kind of funny.
I'm sorry. It's hot, bro. It's a hot day in LA. But my name is Arthur Fleck, also known as the Joker. And you over there in that bright orange suit. What is your name?
Can y'all guess who I am?
Do you know who that is, Jason?
That's Velma.
Oh, you watch Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, we've had some crossovers. Do you guys think we should have changed our name tags for the episode? Joker and Jason, and then
ignore that.
Is that a missed opportunity?
Just Photoshop it.
It's because we're all, each character that we're best friends. We're besties with each person that's sitting in this.
Oh, yeah.
So Jason is Brandon's best friend. Arthur Fleck is Steve's best friend. And
should I redo the intro? And
no, it's okay.
What's up, you guys?
That's like the second time in a row we did that. Okay.
I'm your host, Jalissa. And of course, I am here with the boys, Jason and Joker. Say what's up, you guys.
What's up? I should talk.
I know. So you're gonna talk the whole time. I was gonna do my. I'll do my best Joker laugh.
Jason, do it. Do something.
Do something.
Do your laugh.
Wow. Beautiful. That was really good.
That was hard.
Yeah, that was cool.
Thank you.
That was really cool.
Thank you.
That was really cool. And Julie, go ahead. Do your famous thing.
My glasses.
I thought you were gonna say Jinkies.
No, she's right.
Velma says Jinkies, right?
Yeah, but she got it right.
Yeah.
I'll let that one pass.
That's pretty good.
That's the only one I could think of.
Okay, but in all seriousness, how are you guys doing?
I'm good. Just trying to survive the heat. It has been really hot though.
It's supposed to cool down though. Like after this next couple of days.
Yeah, after this week, it's finally over.
We're finally getting fall weather.
Mm-hmm. I think this next week is supposed to be cold.
I've been wanting fall weather so bad. Hoodie season?
Hoodie season?
Cuddle season?
I was never a fan of the hoodies, if I'm being honest.
Really?
In high school, were you part of that group that
always wore hoodies? Yeah, I think so.
Why do people do that? What's the point of that? I never was that. I was always a jacket kind of guy. I always wore like
with the zippers.
Yeah, no, not with zippers. Like a nice ass like leather jacket. That was me. I thought it was cool like that. But
I don't know. Maybe because when you're younger, you're kind of insecure, so you're like, I want to.
Oh, you want to cover up?
I don't want to reveal as much as me as possible, you know?
It's so funny. The older I get, the more I do see high school kids who wear like hoodies in like 90-degree weathers. And I'm like, damn, what the fuck are they doing? Yeah. Like, am I getting old? Mm-hmm. My birthday is coming up in a few weeks. Am I getting old, bro? It's finally happening.
Yeah, bro.
When I wake up at on my birthday, is my back going to start hurting, Julie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say by 25, everything
No,
just goes downhill.
it has been a minute since high school. I was talking to one of my friends from high school the other day. Not the other day, but you know what I mean.
The other Friday.
Yeah. Like he was just saying how like he just said in passing like, damn, I've known you almost 10 years, bro. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've known you like 3 years. But then like it's because I met him freshman year, and that was like almost 10 years for me. It's just pretty wild.
Bro, this year it's been 10 years since I met my friends that I met in freshman year of high school. And I remember I told my friend and she threw up in her mouth. She was like, ugh, we're old, bro. I'm like, I don't feel old. I feel great. But then watch, I'm gonna wake up age 25, like shaking, arthritis. Like it's all gonna start. It's all gonna start, bro. I'm scared. Julie, what changed as you got older?
I feel like everyone always talks about like your body hurting. Which I feel like
it was always like that.
Yeah. But I'm also like, I don't know, maybe it's I just never paid attention to like that stuff. I just know that people always say like your body just kind of slows down a little bit. And that's why they say like it's better to kind of like exercise when you're younger. But that's about it. I wouldn't say anything else.
But for me, it's drinking. I like drinking is really fucking me up now. Like, I can't. Like I drank with my older brother. You saw. Yeah. I was hungover the whole day. The next day, bro. It was fucking the worst.
Well, it's because you also drank hard liquor, no?
Okay, and is that not the point? Is that the point?
I don't know.
Do people casually drink?
Because he mostly just drinks beer. I think people casually just drink like beer and stuff.
But beer,
I don't know.
Beer is.
I don't know because some people drink like the hard liquor, like what do they call it? Like the brown liquor. I forget what it's called.
Dark liquor.
Yeah, dark liquor.
Yeah.
Like people drink that all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
My body can't take it.
I feel like, drinking though does change as you grow older. Like it's harder to like keep up.
I've heard people say like, "Oh, when I missed my golden days of drinking when I was the bright age of 16." Yeah,
or at least 16.
Yeah, that ass. People say that, yeah.
Or at least like recovering is a lot harder than what it used to be. Yeah, like before you'd be like, all right, like I went out, now I gotta go to work or something, or go to like my class. Now it's a lot harder to like wake up the next day,
bro. For real, I remember when I was 19. I mean, when I was the legal age of 21. I remember I would like drink, and then the next day I would wake up early to go to the gym. I can't do that now for shit. I need the whole day to recover. It's such a waste of time, bro. Honestly, just stick to weed, guys. Just like that's my advice. Stick to weed, bro.
Don't do drugs.
Weed is not a drug. It is a medicine. Do you consider Tylenol a drug? Do you consider NyQuil a drug?
Yeah, no.
Jason, any input?
It's because like it's like how we learned, you know. Weed's his ancestral plant, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. Ayahuasca is from Mexico, so
is it actually
psychedelics? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Ayahuasca is from Mexico, so I bet you if we took ayahuasca live on the show right now, we'd probably be okay.
Do you think?
Which is why I brought some. I'm just kidding.
Do you think that's why like I guess a lot of I guess people from Mexico are very like spiritual.
You know what I thought was interesting? I was watching this nature documentary a while ago. I want to say the other day, but it wasn't. About jaguars. You know how there's jaguars in Mexico? Yeah. How they do ayahuasca? How they'll like find like the plant or whatever and they'll chew on it and then they'll just trip out all day. And then people who take ayahuasca they see like jaguar gods and shit. I think that's kind of cool.
Oh.
You know?
I don't know. That's tricky, man. Because I remember when I first tripped out on mushrooms. I remember my like visuals were kind of the Hinduism like symbolism, but then when I would trip like other times, because I had educated myself more on like indigenous like history, I started seeing more of like the Maya and like Aztec type of like arts, and that was trippy. I think it's based on whatever you think. Like now, because that's in you, I bet you if you had a visual trip, I bet you would see the jaguar gods.
I wonder what jaguars see.
Right?
I know, right?
That'd be crazy.
I wonder. Well, do animals see color?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, but
I think it's just different.
Yeah, right. Because dogs only see like in blue and like yellow, right?
Yeah.
They only see hues.
I saw something about how like you're not supposed to get them red toys because red looks like brown. So yeah,
I saw a TikTok about that. Yeah. Because he's like, bro, no wonder you can't like.
That's the one. Yeah. That's exactly the one.
Cruel, bro. Cruel.
Yeah.
I hate like I always think of. I hate that like. No, I don't hate that they're helpless. I'm just like, bro, it's so sad because like sometimes I think of my dogs or my cats and like they don't know that some of the shit they're doing, like they get caught like in a trap or something, or they got hit by like a car. I'm like, damn, bro. To them, they don't even understand. They can't fathom the technologies humanity has created. You know, it's as if like God had like a spaceship or something, and he like blasted you accidentally with like a missile, and you just for some reason like it evaporated like a part of your body. You'd be like, then what the fuck is this?
What was that about?
Yeah, like, I just magically combusted.
Yeah,
Like, that's what I imagine the same for them. But anyways, Julie, not to get into the meat of the show, what did you bring for this week?
Speaking of death, no, just kidding. So since when this episode comes out, it's gonna be the start of Dia de Muertos.
Nice.
To those who celebrate and to those who don't, that's the Day of the Dead. In case you guys didn't know, I did a lot of research on it just because I wanted to kind of specify on like each day. So it starts technically. It used to be said that it started on the 28th, but now there's a bonus day for the 27th, so it goes from the 27th to November 2nd. And I just wanted to do research just so like people who don't know about it, or if they don't celebrate it in your like city or your like town, because they say that they mostly celebrate it in LA and New York, like that's where it's heavily celebrated, Dia de los Muertos, and then a couple of the countries that actually celebrate it, of course, is mainly Mexico. There's El Salvador, Guatemala, Ecuador, the Philippines, which I didn't know that.
Really?
Haiti and Brazil. Those are a couple. There's probably still more.
Yeah.
But those are a couple that I like found. So I'm just gonna go through like the days and the different things that they represent. So on the honorary one that I just recently like heard about last year is October 27th. So that's Dia de las Mascotas, which is for the pets. So that's for October 27th. It's believed that your pets are going to come back to kind of like the same thing, to like visit. And also if it's like a new animal who like passed away, they'll like come here to kind of like help you with easing of them like going away and going to the other side. So that's what October 27th is. And then October 28th is Dia de los Accidentados. So that's for the day of the ones who died in an accident or weren't able to reach their destination, or those who had a sudden and violent death.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. And then October 29th is just Dia de los Ahogados. So it's just people who drowned.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
I didn't even know there were specific days for specific like ways of dying.
Yeah, I thought that one was interesting because it's the only one that has like a very specific like death. It's only the 29th, which is the day of like the people that drowned.
Yeah. Do you think that's because, so does Dia de los Muertos, maybe you'll get into this, or maybe you just know off the bat, is Dia de los Muertos, is it like you said it's celebrated in other countries, but is it originated from Mexico?
Yeah, so basically Day of the Dead kind of comes from a little bit of like the Aztecs. So a lot of like the Aztecs used to honor their dead with like fiestas and like rituals, and they viewed death as like the beginning of life or the cycle of the seasons.
Wow, that's cool.
They also say that the other thing is that I didn't know this. Also, like monarchas, so like monarch butterflies, they're also believed to like hold the spirits of those who passed. And the reason that it's also representation is because the first monarch start like coming into Mexico around November 1st. So that's why they're also like the representation of that.
Yeah,
but that's where it comes from. It's like from the Aztecs. They kind of like started that because they celebrate like death. And I think it has to do, especially with the seasons. I think that's where like everything just like comes in for like seasons, like the flowers and all that. So I think that's where it kind of like comes from for them to like celebrate all that.
Yeah, I just brought it up because you said that that's the only one that has specific death, right? People who drown. I think in history, right, the Aztec city, where Mexico City is right now, it used to be surrounded by water. So maybe that's the connection there.
Yeah. But yeah, it comes, so basically Day of the Dead is more from, now it's developed of course with like the Catholic religion, so it's like kind of merged, but it did start with like the Aztecs. That's where like it first like came from. And then October 30th is Dia de los Olvidados, so those who have been forgotten, those who have no family to remember them. That's just the honor in them. And then October 31st is Dia de los Niños, que nunca nacieron, so the kids that were never born. So, or like just, you know, who like just died really early. And then November 1st is Dia de los Niños. So that's for just kids, like all the kids, who like passed away. And then November 2nd is, Dia de los, Muertos Adultos. So just the adults. So everyone else. But yeah. And then, and I mean, with Dia de los Muertos, they do a lot of like ofrendas. So they do like, so you basically put a lot of like, just like pictures of them. You can put food. You can put like, in Mexico, I know that they have like pan de muerto, which is like, just, it's either in the shape of a skull or a skeleton. They do copal, which is like incest. And then they do sugar skulls, and the sugar skulls are meant for like the kids to enjoy when they like come back and like visit. And then they, if you want to do more into like, you know, like the Aztec ritual, you put the 4 elements. So with the 4 elements, water, which is water, wind, earth, and fire. Water is either a glass of water or a pitcher. Wind is the papel picado, which is traditional like paper banners. And then earth is represented by the food, especially the bread. And then fire is, of course, the candles. And then, of course, everyone has seen them, the orange flower, which are the marigolds. And the Nahuatl or the Aztec version of that is cempasúchil, the flower. And then it's a very bright orange or yellow one. The other one that I saw, because I went to Mexico, is this really like red, like velvet flower. And it's just called flor de terciopelo, which is just, it generally just looks like a velvet. Like it's like a velvet red flower. And the other one that I didn't know was about baby's breath. I think it's called nube. But yeah, I didn't know about that one. But supposedly it's believed that, you know, like the cempasúchil is basically like, because it's so bright and it smells a lot, that it's kind of like to kind of help the families to like come into the home and visit the ofrenda, which is the altar. And a lot of people use also like the petals to kind of lead the way. So like people start from the outside and they create like a path to kind of like lead into the ofrenda. My mom used to do that. I remember that. That's like the most like memorable thing that I have, is when my mom used to like lay all the petals on the floor. And yeah, so that because they're very fragrant, like that's basically like what it's believed. And I think when I was in Mexico, somebody told me about terciopelo, and that's more of the representation of kind of like the blood and stuff of like those who have passed. They don't use that much. I haven't seen people use that much here, but they grow like fields of them like in Mexico. And then also the copal, which is symbolic to the transformation to the physical, to the supernatural. And other things that you can put on the ofrenda is like their favorite foods, their favorite drinks. I mean, a lot of people put like cervezas or like tequila or whatever, whatever your loved one loved, right? And then and then there's this thing that I learned a couple years ago called a nueva ofrenda, and a nueva ofrenda is basically when like a loved one had recently passed away in like that year. So say like somebody passed away earlier this year and Day of the Dead is barely going to come up for them. That's their nueva ofrenda, because they're like new. This is like their new day of them passing. So this is their new day of celebrating it. But yeah, that's a little bit of that, because I feel like I wanted to bring this up just to those who don't know how to like celebrate it, and if they want to do, and if they do want to celebrate it. And I don't know, I always feel like I think I started to connect a lot more to these days, because now I do have people who like, I guess I can celebrate. And I don't know, I always think about the pet one, especially because I feel like it helps me at least grieve a lot of the things of like my past relatives and my past pets. I don't know, I think it's really cool how like it also kind of comes from like our Aztec roots and like our indigenous like culture, because that's kind of like where it started. Because I really like the whole thing about the elements, and I didn't know like the significance of everything that you put on like an ofrenda. And it's really cool that I was just doing like my research and like how like everything kind of has a meaning to it as to why everything's on the altar. And I don't know, I feel like there's just something like super spiritual about it that I have like a connection to it. And I feel like it's just really nice. I think especially if you ever go to Mexico and want to experience it, it's really beautiful. Like the Cempasúchil, like there's fields and of the terciopelo, like it's just like you just see orange and like red, and that's all you see. And it's just really cool to also see that, like, because my parents are from a small town, you see that when they know that somebody passed, like they go and visit, like they give to the ofrenda, like it's just very like there's a lot of connection and community to it, that I feel like it's always a cool day to just see, and how like it's celebrated in like the homeland. Then like compared here it's just like you just make like your ofrenda, and like you can also invite like family and stuff. But over there it's just like it's a whole collective thing where it's like the whole town just like comes through, and like they'll either give like coffee or bread or actual food of like the person that passed away and like their favorite food or something. But yeah, I thought it was really cool, and I just wanted like to mention that. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it?
How do I feel about Dia de los Muertos? I mean, yeah, like you said, our family has always celebrated it. I find more interesting the significance of culturally celebration of death. Because I don't know, would you say that here in the United States we have a good relationship with the way our culture celebrates death, or not even celebrates, more like has a relation when we think about death?
Nah, yeah, I feel like death's a more taboo thing in the United States. I feel like when I look at other cultures or in other countries, there's like I guess a more
Acceptance,
involved, like, they're just more involved with death,
Yeah.
like it seems more, I don't know. I feel
Like
like here it is kind of taboo. But
like
yeah,
it's a little more accepted.
I feel
No,
like
he's
accept
saying-
is the wrong word. I just feel like it's like it's just part of life. It's more because I remember there's this like chick, she's like a mortician, and her whole channel, I've seen her before, her whole channel is dedicated to like death and like understanding it and like grieving it and like having a positive relationship with it. And she talks about how in America it is very like it's like a taboo, like weird relationship with it, but in the past it wasn't, but now I guess it's because it's everybody's so removed from it, there's not a lot.
Really? In the past it was easier?
And
like it was more,
because I remember this is a long time ago when I saw it, but she said in the past like it was more common to see like a family member die or like
that
like
makes sense.
Yeah. Where now it's a little more like I guess removed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's because, I mean, if I had to connect to history, I think in the United States we have a lot of tragedies. The biggest one I can think about is 9/11, and I think that's when death and like the perspective around like what happens when you die kind of changed, where you had kind of more of like a sad, depressing feeling about it. You're like, this something ends, especially because, and I don't know if this is getting too deep, but especially because the U.S. used it as a justification for war. So you kind of have to have that association of like, no, death is something bad because that's why we're going off to fight. And I like the idea of culturally, like Dia de los Muertos is more of a celebration, because I felt like personally as a Mexican American, I always kind of grew up with that idea of like, no, like death is sad, yes, but it's not depressing. It's not the end. It's the beginning of something new. Spirituality, I don't know. I've been everywhere with spirituality. I don't know exactly where I feel in that sense, but I like the idea and the implication more that even when you die, it's just the start of a new phase of whatever is next. And I think that's cool. And I also like the respect that you can pay to people who have passed. I never knew the intricacies, like how you're giving out right now about how there's specific days for even whether it's kids who were never born, people who drowned. That's so interesting, though. I can't get over that.
The people who drowned?
Yeah, that is so like unique. Why is that? Like not people who like were set on fire. Like, why specifically drowning? I'm telling you, I think it's because of the city.
Yeah, I think well, because that's where like it all comes from, and like now there's of course like the religious twist to it, right? But I think that specifically that's where it like comes from, because the city was surrounded by like water that like I think a lot of people
probably drowned.
Probably drowned. Yeah.
It reminds me of Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2. How all the like Mexica people are living underwater, and I wonder if that's obviously that's fiction, but I mean like there's some interconnection right there about it.
I think what you said earlier about how wasn't it built on Like,
Yeah.
around the lake. Isn't that why Mexico City's like singing? 'Cause
Yeah,
the water
Mexico
went-
City singing. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I think the land that it's on, it's like
It's like a sinkhole now because
Yeah.
the water evaporated. So
yeah,
it's like,
it's scary, bro. If I lived in Mexico City, I'd be scared. Cause I think Mexico City is. I'm gonna fact check this, but I think it's like the third largest like city in the world. I think it's a really big city. I'll look it up while y'all mingle amongst each other.
No, but yeah, I feel like especially I had an aunt that I was really close to that like passed away. And I mean, I was always interested in like Dia de los Muertos because like my mom always celebrated it. And she always decorated like the house when it was like coming up. But I also didn't know that everything had like a specific day until when like my aunt passed away. And then I started doing a little more research on like Day of the Dead. And that's when like I found out of like each day has like kind of like a representation. Because I always thought it was just like November 1st to like November 2nd. And all I knew is that one day was for the kids and then one day was for the adults. And then eventually I started going more into it. And then I saw that it was like, there were specifics and it starts on the 28th. Now they do the 27th because it's for like the pets. I don't know if that's like been around for a while, but I think that's what like it's been adopted to now. And it's really cool because I feel like, I think the other one that I really like is October 30th, which is Dia de los Olvidados, which is those who have been forgotten. Because it's also like like if you guys saw Coco, like they talk about it.
I was literally
like
about to say.
they talk about it on there, and
The two deaths.
and like like the two deaths and stuff. And I don't know. I think there is something like super significant, at least something that like really got to me in that specific scene, because it is like, you know, there comes a point where like nobody kind of remembers you, like everyone has already passed away, like there's no one to kind of like keep up like your legacy or your stories and stuff. So to know that there's a day for them, it's cool, even though you don't know them, but it's cool to know that like they're still celebrated, no matter what. And that's the other cool part about like Dia de los Muertos is the fact that like you tell stories about them too, which kind of keeps up, you know, their memory alive and who they were, just like different things. And I feel like, at least for us or whoever actually does it, or like for me, like I think that helps a lot with coping and like grieving and like, because I can only imagine like how it is, because at least for me, it's like my aunt and like my grandma and like my pets. But I can only imagine when it's a closer relative of like, you know, like your parent or like a kid or
sibling.
Yeah, like a sibling. Like I know how like I can only imagine how much like painful that is, and I feel like this is a great way to kind of like remember them and know that you're still celebrating them.
Yeah, and in keeping traditions alive too.
Yeah,
because I think I honestly can say that I think we're the only people that I know who celebrate Dia de los Muertos. Does your family celebrate it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, none of my friends do, and they're all Mexican. They're all first generation. And the only family that I ever really knew that celebrated it was us. I don't know. Do you know other people?
Not that I really remember. I feel like people semi like would decorate, but I don't think it would.
But for like school and stuff, right? I'm genuinely the only person I knew was mom who would do. I love that. I love that she would do the petals from the outside to the inside of the house. That was beautiful. Also, I wanted to say this is a funny side thing that I remembered when you were talking about how there comes a day when all your stories have passed, all the people that knew you are gone too, and people forget your name. Have you ever seen that meme? that's like somebody. It's literally somebody saying that. Somebody tweets like, one day nobody's gonna remember your name, nobody's gonna remember anything about you, and everybody who did know you is gonna be gone too. And then somebody replies with, "Not if I eat the Mona Lisa." Have you seen it? That's just a thing that I remember. I was like, well, I guess if you did something outrageous, probably like that, like you eat the Mona Lisa, or I don't know. What's another significant artifact?
You know what's interesting? I the other day I was I looked up like the 10 most famous people ever just to see who it was, like, and I think like
Jesus?
number 2,
I knew
it was like Jesus. So I feel like if you want to be, you got to be like that. You got to be like the son of God.
I'm gonna be the son of God.
Yeah.
Literally have to be the son of the creator.
Well, because as you were like talking, the only person that I could think of too is like Selena, because like she's always like
that's tragic, bro.
Like there's a lot of people who just aren't gonna be forgotten because of the history that they like made with
but
it.
even
like,
then,
whether
I feel
that's
like
music or anything
I feel like
else.
given a long enough time, you know,
People,
Like,
yeah.
like there's
Eventually,
probably actors and celebrities and stuff during like Abraham Lincoln's day,
yeah.
but
I mean,
I don't know there.
how long were the Egyptians like around for? I'm sure they had their Selenas and pop icons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Who were probably remembered even longer than some of the pop icons that are around now,
Mhm.
and now can't even name them.
Mhm.
I also wanted to say I fact checked what I said. It's one of the largest cities in the world, Mexico City. But fun fact, it's the biggest city in North America. So across this continent, it's Mexico City is the biggest city. It houses like 21 million people plus, which is
Yeah.
crazy because I think just California has like 30 million people. So that's insane. And just that one city, 21 million, just shy of that. That's fucking insane.
Well, Mexico does seem pretty huge, like overall. Like if you think more of like the outside of Mexico City, like there's a lot of like different like.
It's beautiful. That's why when the
Yeah.
Spaniards came, they were like, "There's no way, right? This is yours. It's mine now. It's mine now." Bro, they fell in love with it. Have you ever seen the Rosalia meme? Do you guys know who you don't know who
Yeah.
Rosalia is, huh? You know who Rosalia
Yeah.
is.
I know who she is.
You know who Rosalia is?
The singer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fucking there's this meme where she's at a concert and she's like, what is it? Me gusta mucho tu tierra. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
And it's like the Spaniards when they got to
Oh, because
Mexico.
she's Spanish, right?
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
the one. Yeah.
And she said that, so like it became like a meme of like
Well-
me gusta mucho tu tierra. Because everybody's like, why did she say tierra? Like
Your
she
land.
could have said like tu país. Like she said specifically, I love your land. It was those genes, bro. They came out. What are her genetic remembrance?
I'm dead. Bruh.
That's beautiful,
that's
bro.
Hilarious.
That's beautiful, bro. The Dia de los Muertos presentation that you give us. I hope everybody learned something, bro. Because I
Yeah.
certainly did. That's
Yeah.
beautiful, bro.
And if you don't celebrate it, you guys can look into it.
Yeah, you can always start.
Yeah.
You can always start, especially if that's your culture. I don't know. I think that's a beautiful way to remember. I'm for sure when I get older, that's what I'm gonna do. When when Brandon passes away, that's what I'm gonna do.
Bruh.
Cause I'm outlive you.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm gonna live to be like 3,000 years old, bro.
That's cool.
You said you don't want to live forever, right?
No. You do?
No, not really. I never thought I'd get to this age, so
Mm.
then every day is a blessing that I wake up. So
You know how we were talking about age earlier?
mhm.
You know how people are always worried about like getting old and wrinkly?
Mhm.
I'm actually pretty excited to get
I same.
To,
Like I
like-
literally don't mind getting old,
to
bro.
like get old and like wrinkly. I'm like, wow, I finally look like an
Adult.
adult. Because I always feel like even right now, and especially like the other day, we were talking to our mom, and she was
Oh,
we were talking
yeah,
about age
yeah.
or something.
Because our birthdays are coming up.
Yeah, because our birthdays were like coming up, and I just started thinking like I'm pretty excited to like get old.
Mhm.
And then she was, because I'm gonna turn 27, and she was like, "Oh, do you feel like 27?" Or one of you guys said it.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't. I still feel 15. Like I really still feel like really really young. Like, and that's why to me, I think maybe that's why I'm a lot more excited to like get older, because I always feel like people do think I'm a lot
Yeah.
younger than what I am. And to me, I don't feel like I look like an adult, you know. And I think that's why maybe I'm a little more excited when I finally get my wrinkles, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like, I'm getting old.
No, yeah, same. I've honestly, like, life's only gotten easier the older I get. I feel like it's just like I just figure shit out more. Like I figure shit out about myself more. I understand people more. I gain empathy for my mother and father. Like I'm like, oh, okay. And so for all of you out there who get worried about getting old, as somebody who's turning 25.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good, right? Thank you. Life's just gotten better, baby. So
I'm
it's all
dead.
good. It's all good.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
yeah. The only thing that does make you a little sad is when I do see my parents and they're getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I told my mom about that. I told my mom about how like I like getting old. I don't mind. Do you remember she was there and my mom was like, "You say that now, but when you get to my age, see if you still feel that same way." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it's like, "I don't know. Your back starts hurting. You feel more tired. Like, see if you keep that same energy." And I was like, "I will, Mom. I will, Mama. I'm gonna keep that same energy." But Julie, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's it.
Brandon, what did you bring for the round table today?
The round table.
The round.
The round desk?
Well, you actually sent it to me, and I thought it was really interesting. I had so you sent me this post, right, of this this scientist from Stanford, he's also like a professor there. He announced, or his take now is that after 40 years of research, his opinion is that free will doesn't exist in people. And I found it interesting because I've seen that guy a lot. His name is Robert Sapolsky. I've seen him talk a lot, like in terms of like psychology and like the way the human brain works and stuff like that. I think I brought it up on this show too once, where he talked about like, I think he talked. It was, I could be butchering it, but it was, I think, about racism. He said something about racism, how that is triggered in the same part of the mind that comes with disgust and stuff like that. So he's an interesting guy to like listen to.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I read his article about, like, I just read the whole article about what he had to say. And I thought it was really interesting. Just because I was like, man, this guy I think he won like, I forgot what it was called. It's something like Genius Award. So I guess he knows his shit, right?
Yeah.
But for him to say that we don't have free will, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
So what did he
do you
mean?
remember
Cause
exactly
like,
what he?
Because I tried watching the video and low key I kind of didn't get it.
He was just saying that in his opinion, everything somebody does is heavily influenced by an action, and that there isn't any room in the human brain for a free will. So I think in the article that I was reading, they ask him, because I think he comes from a super religious background. So they ask him like, oh, how do you explain that? Like, you know, going from like super religious to kind of like obviously like an atheist and like a man of science. Yeah. And the way he kind of presents it is he's like, I'm not saying people can't change or anything like that, but he was saying like the example that he gave was like, let's say you and your friends go out to watch a movie and it's like a really inspiring movie, and then there's this character that you really like, you feel heavily for, and he's like, maybe one of your friends signs up for the Peace Corps, and then another one of your friends decides to go back to college and study this, and then two of your other friends, they just decide they wish they had seen a Marvel movie instead. He was saying like, in his opinion, that's not so much a choice as so much as an influence. So he was saying, in his opinion, that's more of a reaction. They didn't choose to do that, but in their head, like just their past and everything, like their genetics and everything, it already kind of predisposed them to get that reaction out of the film. So I thought it was really interesting because he also brings up the fact that he was saying like, when you say that, like people who do bad stuff, like let's say somebody drives a car into the crowd, he has as little free will as the people who
that's
get
what
hit by the car.
I found crazy.
So he was saying like, I don't know, it was kind of like, he didn't have like a depressing, like he wasn't like trying to be depressing, but he acknowledged the fact that it's kind of like a
depressing thought, right?
A depressing thought, because he was saying like the world's all fucked up, and he was saying, but in my opinion, that nobody really has a choice. Everybody's just kind of like, no. And he also brings up, he was like, in his opinion, like the idea of free will and your actions are as out of your control as a seizure. So like if your brain has a seizure, you're obviously not in control of that, right? But he was saying like, well, in my opinion, your actions are exactly the same thing. You're completely out of control of that. You're going to do what you're going to do. And I thought that was really interesting, just because I was like, I guess I was thinking about how that made me feel. Like I was trying to think about like, does that make me comforted? Does that make me feel like, what's the word?
Trapped?
Not trapped. I guess I was trying to deduce how it made me feel, you know? But I was wondering how it made you guys feel. He said it was his take personally. He's not being like, this is
this is for sure what it is.
Yeah, but he said that was his take in 40 years of research, you know?
40 years of research is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't know if I can disagree with him, but do you get it? Do you want me to try to explain a little bit more?
So when he's talking about free will, it's like you basically just doing whatever you want.
Yeah,
right? But
you honestly have no choice.
But he's saying that like you're actually getting influenced by certain things to kind of do that.
Yeah, whether it's your genetics, your culture, where you're born, the environment you're born into, who your parents were, all those things already predetermined whatever you're going to do in your life. So there's no such thing as free will, because even like, let's say, I'll give you an example. The way I think about it after reading the article, I'm glad I read it too, so I can try and help. I mean, I sent it to you, so. So the way, an example I can kind of give is, if tomorrow your boyfriend, I don't know, like there's a scandal that he maybe like cheated on you. What you decide to do next, you may think you have the free will of like choosing A, B, or C, but those options that you're thinking of, A, B, or C, you're actually limited. Like you can't choose anything beyond that, because you're only thinking in the certain way that you were born as. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like you're like let's say you're just like, my option A is I'm gonna stay with him. Option B is I'm gonna beat that girl's ass. Option C is I'm gonna beat him and that girl's ass. But limiting yourself to those 3 points shows you that you don't have free will, because you're already predisposed. Something subconsciously, you can't think of an option 4.
Yeah.
And option 4 would be the free will, but you can't think of that based on whatever you were around environmentally, the way you were raised. That's basically the easiest example I can give. It's a very complex like thought.
Yeah.
I guess the way I was thinking about it was more like let's say you make a choice or like whatever. It's kind of like you were just always going to make that choice. Even if you were like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. No matter what you do, you were always going to do that just because of the like genetic factors and the history of your past and all that stuff. I just thought that was kind of like interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I the way that I kind of like tried to relate to it is when I talk about it all the time on the show of like, oh, it's the Catholic in me. Like, so I think about stuff like that, right? When like how we all went to Catholic school and like in the back of my head, there's like that heavy influence of like what's going to determine my course of action. That's how I kind of think about it. But I don't know. It's interesting because he also talked about how like, I forget the word he uses, but he brings up like an animal. I think it was like a slug. And he said that like, oh, well, a slug can react to like external factors. But he was saying like, it's just a reaction. The slug doesn't really choose to like adapt. It just kind of reacts. So he was saying like our choice is more of an illusion. This is my interpretation. I could be wrong. Yeah. But he was saying like, it's not so much that we're choosing to do that. We're more reacting like that. And that's just kind of like our luck of the draw, you know, like what my past is, how my parents treated me, how my, you know, whatever treated you, or like what traumas happened to you, whatever it is, that's always going to determine your reaction, not so much your choice. I don't know. I thought that was kind of like,
I guess
interesting.
I guess the way you guys are like talking about it is pretty interesting, because it's like, damn, like I have no free will, right? But as you're talking, I'm like, I'd rather live in Delulu and think that I do have free will. Because it is crazy. And
guess what, bro?
Like,
that was predetermined for you.
I know.
You just made that. That was predetermined.
I know. But that's crazy to think that, like, I guess everything is kind of already in a way determined for me, of like the choices that I'm going to make and stuff. But again, I feel like I still want to live in the fact that like
I swear I got control.
Yeah, like I have control of like what I'm doing with my life. Because I guess it's crazy to think of the other side, right? Of like not having that, and then like things are already predetermined because of the fact of the way you live, the way you grew up.
Your genes.
Yeah. So like I think it's just crazy to me to think that that's like an idea of it, you know?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? This relates to Halloween. Not the holiday, the movie. I watched it recently. And the Halloween, there's a scene where Laurie Strode is sitting in her school, and it's the one where she looks off into the window and she sees Michael Myers staring at her. Her teacher is giving a monologue about destiny and free will and what are the odds. And they discussed that philosophers used to think that free will and destiny is more like nature, like the mountains and the air and the wind, that just like those are just naturally occurring in this world. Fate is the same way, that you can't really get rid of fate. Fate will always be there. And that's like what's interesting is what you were talking about is kind of like a psychological, like actual reality based, but like philosophical is a whole other world.
Well, it's interesting because they also bring that up too. Because I guess because like it's because they mention it in passing. He's like, I know a lot of like researchers would probably disagree. He's not saying like, oh, this is fact and I know I'm like in the right. He's like, I know I'm in the like minority, because he says something like, I know philosophers would agree, I know other psychologists would disagree. Because I do think that's interesting. That is like a big like theme in like a lot of stories and philosophies and stuff like that. And I was thinking about how like, I guess it's ironic because it makes me feel like both an animal and a robot. Because you know how like animals just act out an instinct. Like if you scare a dog, the dog's not really making a choice to like run away. Or if a dog bites you, it doesn't have that like, it's not choosing like I'm gonna bite this person. It's just reacting from instinct. But it also makes me feel like a robot, where it's like I'm programmed to only be able to do this. But I'm thinking that I have the say in it, you know?
Yeah.
Like
So
the
it's-
Matrix.
Yeah, it's like an interesting intersection, you know?
Yeah, I get that 100%. And I want to bring up a point that I thought was really interesting that you brought up. And he says in the article about how when you think of like serial killers or people who like commit atrocities on humanity, all those people were technically never in their control because they were affected by whatever they grew up to be. And I think that's such a mind-blowing idea. And it is, I don't know if it's problematic, but it's hard because it's like, what do you do then? Like you think of some people, like you think of either a celebrity who did some like I'm thinking like OJ Simpson, right? Who, I mean, he was acquitted, right? But let's say he didn't, let's say in this fake world,
He did.
hypothetically, let's say he did it, right?
Yeah.
He did it, right? He killed those two people. To look at him and be like, no, like it's not his fault. It's based on whatever he lived his life and he was predisposed to it. Like it's not that we shouldn't punish him because that's not what he's saying, but it's more of like to really not show him any empathy is harsh because I'm sure if he could choose, he wouldn't have chosen to do that. But he did. But he technically didn't because it was predetermined. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the hardest part that I really find, like, where does the morality set in? Like, what do we do with people who do like horrendous shit, who kill people, who are what you can basically bar for bar describe as evil? Michael Myers, right? What do you do? Like, because realistically, the older I get, the more I realize that people who are fucked up, who commit like these crimes against humanity, they grew up fucked up. A lot of these people grew up with terrible parents, terrible environment, and at one point they were just a child ready to be shaped into anything, and that's what they grew up to be. And I guess to have him then like kind of reestablish that, because that's a thought that I always had.
Yeah.
It's like especially if you're out there listening and you're a fan of like true crime or anything, you'll know that most of those kids were either molested or abused as children. And that's the part where I struggle, because you have to do something. You can't just like be like, no, like
He's
it's
cool.
okay.
Just
Yeah,
run around.
like you can't really blame him. You know, there's a fight internally about morality and I guess like philosophy, right? That's what I think about. That's what I struggle with the most when I think of free will and fate.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, imagine if you were predetermined that one day you were going to kill a bunch of people and go to jail for the rest of your life, and you were told that was your fate. Wouldn't you want people to be like, no, like, help me. Like, please forgive me. Like, I don't want to do this. But you had no choice because that was your fate. And that's what I just struggle with the most. Spooky, bro. I'm glad we're getting, like, real spooky.
Well, I also think that I'm just really glad he went there. Like, because I feel like he kind of wasted no time into, like, that's kind of, like, his thought.
Yeah.
Of, like, just what he says. Like, he's, like, when people who do bad stuff, he's, like, they're as out of control as their victims, you know?
That's great.
Like, you know, this is I don't know.
I don't know if it's a gray area. It's just like, it's just such a insane thought. I can't even wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, it's almost like hard to comprehend. Like, what do you mean? Like, I just don't have any control. Like, I just kind of do shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because I'm also thinking like how you guys talk about, or at least we've kind of learned that a lot of like, I guess our traumas come from like our childhoods. And I wonder if like as children, so then does that mean even as children we have like no free will? Because then it's like there's a point in our lives where we don't even know what's right and what's wrong. You know, like we're not being heavily influenced from anything because we haven't even lived life like that long to kind of like know a lot of things. So is it also that like at a young age we do have it at some point, but then eventually because of like we go through traumas that like we start developing those like I guess choices and like different things.
I get what you mean.
Well, it's interesting because I guess like I said, it makes you feel kind of like an animal. Like and the like I guess the connotation I have is like when you get a dog that bites people. And like the mature, like everybody always says is you can't blame the dog. You got to blame the owners or the environment the dog grew up in. Like, oh, the dog was abused and it was never trained properly, or like, you know, it was forced to like grow up and stuff like that. Because you can't like look at a dog and be like, you made the active decision to like bite somebody and be a bad dog.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an animal and it's just reacting to the environment that like it grew up in.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm just like, it's such a weird, almost existential area to be in, because I can, as people, we can sit around and like, you know, think about like the implications of our actions and stuff like that. But for when he presents that and he's like, yeah, you're really no different though. It's just you can kind of sit back and think about it, but you're really no different. Like,
bro, it's so funny. I did it again. This is like the third episode in a row where I kind of talked about something we're talking about now earlier when I was talking about the space god and like I feel bad for animals because they don't understand. In a weird way, I should offer humans the same empathy. Like, like you said, like don't blame the dog, blame the owner. Like don't blame the humans, blame I don't know God or the universe or whatever's out there. Because what you were saying, Julie, is so true. Like it brings up that everything is a social construct. Everybody is like conditioned to act a certain way. I mean, from gender norms to morality, bro. What is good and evil? Good and evil, does that actually exist in the universe? Or is it just what centuries of humans have just, like, this is what's going to benefit us in the long run if we don't kill each other, if we offer community to each other? It's such a you're right. It is like I'm having an existential crisis right now, but it's okay because it's Halloween. This is what it's about. Cosmic horror, right? Yeah. Cosmic horror.
But like, I guess I was also thinking too about how like this is, I don't know, it might not be. I mean, this has always been like a question. I've read about this before. Like we learned about it in like literary works and stuff like that. You see it all the time about, do people have free will? Is fate? You know, all this stuff. Yeah. But like I guess to hear it from like a researcher, I guess my curiosity is like, because I know people are gonna, that's what science is, you know, you're gonna challenge, you're gonna try to find the truth and stuff. Like, let's say this guy's right. Let's say he's right. And like in 100, 200, 300, 1,000 years. And because I feel like eventually we'll probably be able to prove whether it's true or not, right?
Yeah.
Just
based off the way science always seems to multiply and get better.
Yeah. I would assume that we'd one day be able to prove this is true. And I just wonder what society and like what looks like when if we do ever prove that's true. Like, how does that change everything? Like, you know, I don't know. How do you interact?
It literally seems like that's like a fourth dimensional being. And like, I don't know, figure it out, bro. Yeah,
because like,
I think our minds just can't.
No, we can't. That's why I'm always trippy. Because like, imagine one day somebody just drops that bar. Yeah, none of us have free will, so I don't know.
Like I said, like the dog being hit by the car. How do you explain to the dog what a car is? What a human uses the car for? Who made the car? What brand the car is? Why do we need the car? You know, like and stuff like that a dog will never understand. We can try our best, but maybe they'll understand aspects of it, like avoid the car, like don't go near that car. But for the most part, they won't know how to drive it. They won't know like how to turn on the AC. They won't know why we need the car. You get me? So I don't know. It's a issue for my fourth dimensional offspring. Yeah, like what's the opposite of ancestors? Like
your legacy,
descendants. Yeah. My descendants to worry about.
I just think your legacy.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's for the descendants to worry about, but I hope you guys got a little spookiness.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really like, whoa.
I thought that was crazy. Yeah.
I hope people in the future are okay.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. I still think the same thing's gonna be true there that it is now. That everything's cool.
Well,
that's the show for today. I'm just kidding, guys. I have two more things. Yeah. So since it is the final episode of the spooky season, I wanted to talk about the season of masks because everybody. If you guys noticed, last episode we were wearing masks. So I just wanted to pay my respects to the luchadors of the past. I did some research about lucha libre. It was cool. It wasn't anything that I felt like I can 100% share here because I just want to give you guys the highlights. But I found out about this really cool guy called El Santo. Have you guys ever heard about El Santo?
No.
He's the way you guys just like shunned me. No. He's a very, very famous lucha libre guy. He's best known for a guy who would never take off his mask, and most people did not ever see him without his mask. He is known as the real life superhero El Santo, and the reason why he's known as a real life superhero is that even his own son said that he was almost a teenager when he found out that his dad was El Santo. That's how good he was at hiding his identity. And he was basically this Mexican luchador who he would so there was a bunch of stories. There's a lot of mythical stories about him. one of the things that he would do is that he would wait till everybody in the like association that he was working with leaves, so that way he could run into the shower, clean his mask, and then put it back on so that the media could like take pictures as he walks out. But he was really good at hiding his identity. They made comic books out of him, and he was dubbed as the Mexican Superman. The comics did so well in Spain that when he died, the people in Spain were shocked to find out that he was a real guy. It's like as if Superman or Batman died. And it's like, bro, did you hear Batman died? Batman was real?
Yeah.
It's literally that. It's like he was that dedicated.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read you guys some fun facts off of just that. El Santo, whose name translates to the saint in English, is one of the most legendary and enduring figures in Mexican wrestling history. He became an iconic symbol of justice and heroism. Yeah, real life superhero, bro. Real life superhero. So he kept his real identity a secret throughout his career, always wearing his iconic silver mask in public. You guys have probably seen it. It's like the most basic like lucha mask you could think of. That's his mask. He basically was like one of the ones who started it all. He started in movies in Mexico in like the 1940s. If you go to Mexico, he's like he's very well known. I even saw on TikTok when I was doing research on him. People made edits of Endgame. He comes out like he's ready to take on Thanos. His superpowers are basically the same as Superman. Yeah, he was a famous movie star. They called it the Luchador films. He had a long career spanning 5 decades from the 1930s to the 1980s. He is incredibly well respected all over Mexico and in the wrestling scene. He did have a son, like I mentioned, and his name was El Hijo del Santo. Yeah, like son of Batman. Outside of the ring, he was actually a humanitarian. Cool. Yeah, he was really cool. He had a lot of generosity. He constantly tried to advocate for a lot of people. He did a lot of charitable events. He was a really well-respected guy. Fun fact, he has a big cultural impact that in the movie Coco, he actually makes a cameo. I don't know.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. There you go. I knew when I mentioned it, you guys would know.
Yeah.
I remember I saw him and I didn't know who he was though. Like I'd never really heard of him. But it was funny that he came out on that, and I remember I was like, I don't know who he is, but he seems pretty cool.
Yeah. I think in the scene I saw it. They even call him. It's like, oh my god, is that El Santo? And he's like a skeleton. He's like, can I take a picture with you? I think I didn't see the scene, but someone.
Oh, and he takes off his head.
Yeah, and he takes a picture. Yeah,
about,
that's him. He's really well respected. But that's basically all I had for him, because I just wanted to give a shout out. Because as a Mexican American, I watched a lot of wrestling. You know, Julie, you already know. I watched a lot of wrestling growing up, and I really enjoyed the aspect of that fact that lucha was like. Well, lucha libre, obviously, if you know Spanish, that translates to freestyle wrestling. Mm-hmm. So it was a big like entertainment and cultural impact for a lot of Mexicans. And the mask is something significant. To even be unmasked is known as like a form of humiliation. If you're unmasked on a live wrestling match, it's like you better never fucking wear that mask again. It's known as like the death of that persona if you take it off. Yeah.
I remember learning about that through like Rey Mysterio, because like he would never take it off, and that was like the thing that they were always trying to do to him.
Yeah,
I don't remember if they actually did.
Didn't they unmask him in WCW?
Yeah, but it's because Rey Mysterio is like the new age, and El Santo is like the old age. You get me?
Yeah,
like,
I get you.
It's like the conservative versus the liberal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could take off your mask sometimes, bro, and the conservatives like, no.
Yeah, I get
this.
you.
This country's going to hell.
It's like tradition versus like
the new wave. So Rey Mysterio is more of like the new wave. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share. And then my final piece of today, I wanted to have some convo with you guys. So give me a sec. Let me clear my throat because I was talking for a second. So I wanted to talk to you guys. I don't know if other Mexicans or Latinos can agree, or I don't know if other Mexicans or Latinos can relate to this, but do you feel as though in our culture, like a lot of people care about what people think about you? Do you get what I mean? Like, I was thinking about this recently. I'm not going to name drop somebody, but there's a reason I thought about this recently. I got drunk with my brother, and somebody that is in my family told me like, oh my God, like why'd you guys get drunk? Like now they're just gonna think you guys are just a bunch of like in Spanish borrachos, right? And in my head, I'm like, I don't care. Like I literally like, who cares what other people think?
Yeah.
But I've noticed that like growing up, that's like a common issue that I think maybe because people talk about all the time how Mexico and Mexican culture is very collective. It's very about like working together in the community. Yeah. And I wonder why that is. Like I feel like a lot of the older generation in Mexican households care a lot what people think about you.
Care a lot about their image.
Yeah, and I think that's so twisted. Like I don't understand why. Like because then you police like the new generation, and I feel like, I don't know, living your life based off what other people think about you and what they perceive of you is a life where you're basically a prisoner. It's almost like you're performing for them. Yeah. You're like performing this dance in this image.
It's not your life.
Yeah, it's not your life. Do you relate to that, Julie, or do you get what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I feel like it is a very common thing, especially with the older generation. I can personally say, at least like the way I know about where it comes from, and this is like super personal, is that like our mom dealt with a lot of things because it's a small town, like we've mentioned before, that where like our parents are from. And I think a lot of just different people are also from small towns, or it's just like, it's kind of like high school, you know, it's like you hear the gossip and then everyone else hears it. And I think that's just how a lot of people just grew up, because, you know, a lot of people just grew up in small towns. And this is just me through my own perspective of like what I know from like my mom, which is like my grandma was like, I'm not going to say her business, but there was just something with my grandma. And basically like my mom would get a lot of that. They'd be like, oh, you're just like your mom. Like you're going to do the same thing as her. And so our mom kind of lived with like the whole town knowing her as that. And I think that's why she kind of grew up being like, oh, don't do something that like everyone's going to talk about or judge you about. Because I think especially because they're in a small town, once somebody says something about you, they're already judging you for it. Like that's instantly what they know you about. And again, I think that comes from just them being in a small town, that it's like, oh, like what is everyone going to say? Everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to know that you're doing these types of things and like drinking or whatever. And like, because it's just like people gossip, you know? And I think because it's just like something that they grew up a lot with, that they kind of started telling us that. Because I remember I grew up a lot with that, especially because I would go with them to Mexico. They would always tell me like, oh, don't do these things because then like, ¿qué va a decir la gente? Like, and even here, because like here, since you know how they have their own business and like everyone knows like papi. So like, I remember they would sometimes tell me like, oh, if you're going to go out with your friends, just be careful because like everyone knows your dad. And like, you know, I was always with them. So people knew me and like they always associated me with them. And it was just like, it was always like I had to be careful with things that I would do. And I remember I always felt like angry about that because I was like, that's no one's business of like what I do with my life. But I somewhat was like a little respectful of it because I was like, that's my parents. And I'm kind of like, I also don't want them to get in trouble for like some shit that I did. But I think it's a very common thing to like hear, especially, I don't know if it's just the Latino community, but I know for sure that like it's something that people grow up with. And I think it really just comes from because of where they grew up, that it's just like, it's like high school. It generally is just like high school. Like if you hear one thing about someone, like everyone hears about it. And I think that's why people are like, oh, like just be careful with what you do, because then people are going to start spreading rumors about it.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I personally just don't think it's like specifically like a culture thing. I think it's an extremely human thing. Like, I think that's just wherever you go. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I feel like we talked about it with a couple episodes ago where I talk about how people say that Gen Z is very afraid of being like seen cringe, or like you see how people interact with their social media and stuff like that. They care very deeply about how you present yourself to the world. Or even like in movies, right? Like you said, the big thing is like, oh, are people in high school gonna like me? I mean, we talked about it earlier in this very episode about how like, why do people wear coats and stuff when it's like 90 degrees weather? Because you want people to like you, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think cultural aspects like exacerbate those kinds of things, you know? But I also think about how, like, you know, maybe in the 50s and 40s when, like, stuff like teen pregnancies were seen as extremely embarrassing. Like, you know, like it would be, like, hidden and stuff like that. I think even one of the Kennedys, she got lobotomized for something like that, right?
Really?
Like,
No, I've never heard of that.
I don't think it was because she got pregnant, but I think it was because she was, I guess, promiscuous or what, and so, or something like that. And so had her lobotomized, you know? Like, it just goes to, I just think that, like, that's a very, like, human thing to, like, really care about what other people think about you. Like, I feel like if you, like, people who genuinely don't care are, like, few, like, rounded to a whole number is probably zero. Yeah. Like, you know, like, I mean, the way you dress, right? Like, oh, I'm going to dress nice because obviously you want people to think you're, like, cleaned up and stuff like that. I don't think it's bad all per se. Yeah, for sure, it can get bad. Like, you shouldn't live your life based on, like, what other people think of you.
Yeah.
But I think that's, like, an innate thing. Like, I feel like people are social creatures, you know? You're going to want the community to accept you. I mean, that's where, like, social cues come from. That's where, like, all these things kind of, like, you know, that's their origin. So I feel like, yeah, like you said.
I guess I'm just thinking, like, I'm sorry, you want to finish your thought?
Go ahead.
I guess I'm just thinking that as twisted as it is, I think it's your parents trying to protect you in a way where it's like they're trying to protect you from the world. But it's, to me, it's just so backwards because I feel like if they're not paying your bills, then don't let them live in your head. Like, you live your life based on what you do. I just, like, to me, I understand that, yes, maybe everybody is like that. But for me personally, I don't think about what other people do. I don't care if other people are like showing up dressed badly. Hey, man, people would go through shit. Like, to me, and I just find it as though it's just an older gen thing. It is giving, like, a small town energy. Like, it is giving, like, that's something where, you're right. Like, it's just like high school. Like, you want to put up this image of perfection. You want to put up this image of success, this image. It's like, to me, it's giving classism. Like, it's giving really, like, it is. That's why I'm like, maybe it is also a Mexican thing. Cause I imagine in Mexico, classism is a big thing. So the way you represent yourself is the way you represent your family. And if you don't represent your family in the right way, then people are going to think like, oh, you're lower class. And that's so twisted, man. Cause even if you were lower class, your social status shouldn't determine your value as a human. Like, I think that's, I don't know. I just say it got me, bro. It really got me when they said that. I was like, bro, like, who cares? Like, who cares if that's what people think about me? Yeah. Like, they're not paying my bills. They're not fucking working for me.
I just think it's like, an extremely, like, I think that feeling of, like, wanting to be accepted is probably one of the most visceral feelings a person can feel. Yeah. Like, I think that's a really difficult thing to break. I mean, genuinely, look at the way people act. Like, people get surgery, like, to, like, physically change their bodies because they're like, people don't like me. I feel like I look hideous, you know? Yeah. And sometimes you've seen how bad or, like, really dangerous that kind of thing can get. Yeah. You know? Or you look at culturally, right? This is true, right? I think the Japanese believe, right, death is better than the surrender, right? Like, you know, to be like, because you don't want to be seen as, like, a coward, or you want to be seen, like, you know, just those kinds of things that you look at in, like, history, and, like, I think that feeling of, like, I want people or the community to accept me is, like, that's almost like as strong as the desire to breathe. Yeah, you know, I really think that's just a really hard, really tough thing to break. So I feel like when cultures, like, pick up on certain aspects, like whatever aspect of, like, of wanting to be accepted, Latinos, I guess, really choose to hone in on, I can imagine it's, like, a very, like, visceral, like, feeling, you know? Yeah.
Well, because it reminds me a lot of when we talk about the Mexican American, like, experience, and how some people play into the stereotypes, how, like, there's some people out here who will be very, very Mexican. Some people are just naturally like that, but some people are, like, playing into the stereotypes, like, oh, like, I get drunk every day, drink Modelo, like, I wear my socks up and shit. Some of these people are playing, like, characters because they want to be accepted by our community. So I agree 100 wholeheartedly what you're saying. I do think that it's just a very strong feeling inside of you of, like, I want to belong with my community. Because I don't blame those people who do fall into the stereotypes. I do think it's problematic, and I do think you shouldn't. But at least where it's coming from a place of I want to belong. I want to be accepted. And even then, like now tying it back to like the familial thing of like, oh, like dated, like what are people gonna say? I know that it's coming from a place of like love of like, I just want you to be protected, and because I didn't feel like I belonged, so I want you to feel like you belong. So I know it's coming from a place of love. I just like, it makes me sad, bro. It makes me sad.
I get you. I just feel like that's kind of one of those things that's like, it's definitely like a human need. Like, I feel like if you don't feel that way, you're not human.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you need to, like, that's why I think it's so strong. Like, dude, people kill over shit like that. Like, people genuinely kill over not feeling accepted. People will hurt themselves and, like, you know, over not feeling accepted. So I feel like it's sad, but I think it's one of those things that's, like, I guess an Achilles heel of, like, the human person, you know, that, like, I need to be accepted at all costs. I mean, like, think about, like, how people who, like, bleach their skin because they feel like they're too dark. You know what I mean? Like, that's gnarly.
I mean, talk about Drake. Drake, that's what, what's his name? Pusha T. That's what he accused him of. That Drake was always insecure by his identity as a black man.
Yeah. But, like, you know, like, that's why I'm, like, I feel like
it's normal.
It's normal. Like, I just think it's one of those things that, like, it's never really gonna go away.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could talk. I feel like I don't know anybody like on planet Earth that I've ever spoken to that didn't at one point feel like they weren't accepted, or didn't at one point feel like insecure about something, or that their friend group or like something at school or like their parents wouldn't accept something. I think that's just innate in life of a person. Yeah. You know. But like I said, like obviously it can go too far. Like for sure it can go too far. But that's just my reasoning for feeling that like it's so difficult to break.
You gotta be self-aware. You gotta be and self-regulatory. I think that's the best like antidote for that. Is you're right. I think it's innate in humans, so don't blame yourself too much. But also I think to be self-aware and regulate your emotions based off that is important, because you gotta understand that at the end of the day, you're the one who's experiencing this life. Yes, you may feel like you want to belong sometimes, and other people may want to protect you and force you to feel like you should belong. But always understand that the only people who is ever going to understand what you're going through is you. So hold yourself some empathy, right?
Yeah. I also feel like, I think sometimes that kind of comes from because you kind of grew up kind of seeing that people do kind of have an opinion of certain things. Like for me, I grew up going to family parties and I always heard the cheeseman. Like I always heard about somebody being talked about or like somebody being judged. Like I remember one time a parent was judging the kid that she didn't know how to cook. And she was like, oh, like you don't know how to like cook this, and she was like, no. And then the adult was like, oh, why? Like, why haven't you learned how to cook? Or like, you should at least learn to do like something. And then she was like, oh, well, it's because like my mom mostly just wanted me to focus on school, so she didn't really teach me how to cook. And she's like, oh, okay. I don't remember the rest of the conversation, but it's just like those things, right? And that was a little kid. Like, well, she wasn't that little. She was probably in like her preteens. But it's like, you know, as young kids, you kind of start hearing that. And that's why like you kind of develop those thoughts as you grow older of like, man, what are people going to think about me? Of like, if I do certain things or if I post stuff on the internet. And again, I think it's just like, I think as like we're growing older, it's more of like not thinking of like what others think about you, but it is hard when you kind of grow up in that, like when you're growing up in that environment of like always thinking that. And again, like, I guess not being so harsh on yourself about it if it is, because people are going to talk no matter what. People are going to talk. Like people are going to say some shit. But at the end of it, it's like, knowing like your own worth and like just knowing yourself and like being there for yourself and not hurting yourself for the things that you do, because it's like, those are your choices and like, you know, the consequences too. And like what you do is okay. Like to some people, they won't like it. You're not always going to satisfy everyone. Like you're not always going to please everyone of like the decisions that you make. As long as like you enjoy them and those are the choices you want to make and that's what you want to do, then that's fine. Like as long as it's good for you. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter what anybody else says. 'Cause to that, like everyone's going to talk. Like no matter what, someone's going to say some shit.
Yeah. And you just got to realize that everything's cool.
Wow.
Wow. Happy Halloween. I hope you guys have a beautiful Halloween. Get a lot of chocolates. If you guys drink this weekend, make sure you have a DD. Drive safe. Everybody is entitled to one good scare. Make sure you get yours. We just want to say a shout out to our Patreons.
Yeah, shout out to our patrons, Daniel Villanueva, Catherine, Jada Chicano, and Yoel. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. If you ever want to join the Patreon, go ahead and hit that link in our bio. But have a safe Halloween, guys. We really thank you for listening to this episode. But we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.